Allison, I'm on the way.
The clerk told agents he had seen the suspect enter a bookstore nearby. A security officer checked out the bookstore, but the mall passer was not there. Then they spotted him, coming out of a shoe store.
Stay here.
Aware he was being followed, he began running toward a store that was under construction. Two police officers pulled up outside the unfinished area where the mall passer had disappeared. The suspect tried to bluff his way past the officers by telling them that the police had already cleared him to leave. The officers didn't believe him.
That's it. Hold on. Don't worry, he's not going anywhere. I need to someone up to the car real quick.
They searched him and found a gun in his front pocket. They also found some counterfeit money. It matched the bill passed at the shop. After years of searching, they knew they finally had the mall passer. They questioned the suspect to see if his car was nearby. He continued to deny having a car, but again, the agents did not believe him.
If this is a guy who's been driving all over the country, there could be all kinds of evidence in that car of his other passes.
Investigators waited until nightfall to check the mall for unattended vehicles. Only 3 cars were left in the lot. The mall passer's keys fit one of them, a 1971 Chrysler. The agent closed the vehicle and sought a search warrant. The next morning, the suspect's car was towed to an impound garage where police began processing it. The car had been equipped with a police siren. Inside the trunk, they found more police paraphernalia. What appeared to be stolen license plates and a collection of women's underwear. The investigators began to suspect that there was more to the mall passer than simply passing fake bills. After tracking the mall passer for years, the Secret Service finally had him in custody in Knoxville, Tennessee. He had been arrested after passing a fake 20 in a local mall. Agents searched the mall passer's car. As they did, they uncovered disturbing evidence. The car was outfitted with a police siren and police lights. Inside, agents recovered a loaded semi-automatic pistol. The search turned up thousands of dollars in counterfeit currency in small bundles. Each bundle was labeled with the name of a different city. An itinerary found above the visor listed various dates, cities and aliases used, motels and how much money was spent. The counterfeiter had kept meticulous records of his travels. In the trunk, they found a stack of stolen license plates, some with magnets attached. They also found other items that surprised Special Agent Allison.
These stolen tags with the magnets on them, those were fairly normal for a counterfeiter to try to hide his identification, to get away. But then the police lights, the police badges that we found, the police siren and the spotlight in the front of the car, we suspected then that we had a police impersonator. But we We had no idea why.
The trunk contained several forged driver's licenses, all of them bearing the suspect's picture.
As we were searching the car, I thought that we were looking for counterfeit evidence. And the more we found, the more I realized this guy must be into something else besides counterfeiting.
What's your real name? Roger Colin Blanchard.
At the Secret Service office, agents interviewed the suspect to obtain his personal history. At the time of his arrest, he was carrying a North Carolina driver's license in the name of Roger Colin Blanchard.
We've got your fingerprints.
When he told them his birth date, it was different than the date on his driver's license.
The month was the same, the year was the same, but the day was different. So I reasoned then that there's something not right here.
Checking the address on the driver's license, agents found it belonged to a motel. The management of the motel said they had never heard of a Roger Colin Blanchard.
Agent Roberts.
Agents in Tennessee contacted the Washington, D.C. field office. The car's license plates had been stolen, but the vehicle was registered to a James R. Jones of Alexandria, Virginia. Special Agent Greg Mertz discovered that Jones had also registered the vehicle in Albany, New York. Jones had the same height, weight, and birth date as Blanchard.
Well, I called back down to Knoxville and I said, hey, I don't think this guy's name is Roger Collins Blanchard. I think his real name is James R. Jones. And I said, why don't you FedEx his fingerprints up and we'll hand carry him to the Bureau the next morning and try to get a true identification on the guy.
A search of the FBI's records uncovered the mall passer's identity. He was James Mitchell de Bartoleben II, a 44-year-old career criminal. He had been arrested by the Secret Service years earlier in 1976 for passing counterfeit $100 bills. Special Agent Foose pulled up the report and realized the investigating agents still worked in the Secret Service's Washington field office.
Passing counterfeit bills.
When Foose showed Special Agent Mike Stevens de Bartoleben's new arrest photo, Stevens recognized him instantly.
Went in and searched his apartment.
I knew Foose was working the mall passer case, and then he told me that he had been arrested in Knoxville, Tennessee as the mall passer. Well, naturally, I got a lump in my throat, and I said, certainly I do remember him. I immediately wanted a piece of this new investigation because I knew probably more about him than most people.
Stevens briefed Foose on what they found when they first arrested de Bartoleben. The morning after de Bartoleben's 1976 arrest, agents obtained a warrant to search his residence. They were looking for his printing press. On the second floor, they entered a darkened bedroom.
And we hit a light switch to turn the light on. And immediately, a movie projector came on and projected pornography on the wall. It frightened us a little bit because it startled us, because we don't know exactly what we're getting into.
All around them was amateur pornography. Much of it involved torture and bondage scenarios. The agents found a stack of index cards with the names of women, their addresses, and descriptions of their physical attributes. It appeared the cards included a crude rating system. Under the pillows, they found a .38 caliber revolver and a 9mm automatic pistol.
Let me check them and see.
Both weapons were loaded. Stevens went on to tell the agents that during the 1976 search of de Bartoleben's home, they discovered the second locked bedroom. Using a sledgehammer, they smashed the door.
And there was the printing press operation, the 1250 multilith, which was a surprise to us because it's very heavy. And it was a surprise that it was up on the second floor. Money was strewed all over the floor of the room.
Stevens told the agents de Bartoleben served only 23 months for his prior 1976 counterfeiting conviction. Special Agent Stevens always felt there was more to de Bartoleben than counterfeiting.
We had him arrested now in Knoxville, and he was using various different aliases. I think total, I think we ended up with about 40 different aliases that he used.
Investigators now had to find out what he had been doing since his release. They set out to learn everything they could about James Mitchell de Bartoleben. After a 3-year search, Secret Service agents in Tennessee finally apprehended the mall passer. But they still found no clues as to where he kept his printing press and supplies. On the windshield of his car, they noticed a parking sticker for an apartment complex in Alexandria, Virginia. Agents from the Washington, D.C. office were dispatched to check out the apartment. It was only 15 miles from the Secret Service office. Agent Jane Vizeris worked the case.
We became actively involved in trying to figure out what activities was he involved in here. Perhaps, was this his home base? Was he actually manufacturing the notes here? Did he have a stash of counterfeit notes here?
Residents of the apartment building recognized de Bartoleben's picture and said they knew him as James Jones. The agents learned which unit was his. They secured a warrant. When Special Agent Mertz entered the apartment, his hopes sank.
It was a one-bedroom apartment, kitchen, living room, you know, small, maybe 800-900 square feet total. And we realized immediately upon walking in that our investigation was going to continue because we had not discovered the planned operation.
De Bartoleben had learned from his 1976 arrest. He no longer kept his printing press in his home. The agents searched the apartment but found nothing unusual, except for a large quantity of men's socks.
We looked around. We found a number of small bags with small purchases. You know, maybe a pair of socks, a book, maybe a map, those kinds of little things, which was very typical with the kind of behavior that was exhibited by this individual, because he would go in, of course, and try to buy a very small dollar item with a 20 to get the maximum amount of change possible.
The puzzling thing to the agents was that although it appeared de Bartoleben had no use for any of the items he bought, he kept them. It seemed as if they were trophies of his crimes. The Secret Service had de Bartoleben in custody, but unless they could find his printing press, they couldn't charge him with manufacturing counterfeit bills.
Here was a 3.5-year investigation that had the attention of the entire Secret Service, and we were expecting to find a large amount of counterfeit money. We were expecting to find, or hoping to find, a printing plant operation with a printing press and printing plate negatives and plates, and we found nothing.
Just keep doing the
The sentence for passing was much lighter than the sentence for manufacturing. They had to find the press. Agent Mertz had an idea.
I leafed through every single page of the white pages, Northern Virginia. It was 3 inches thick, looking for any marks, any names that might be circled, anything of the nature like that. I then started with the yellow pages and went to every single page in the yellow pages. When I got